everyone. Welcome into this week's My Project Hell live webcast. I'm Kelly Schockler, and for the next 20 minutes, my partner Paul and I, we're going to explore a slice of the project management universe where we'll be doing our best to bring some sense making to this often confusing discipline and craft, and talk plainly about useful solutions to real project problems.
And I am Paul Thompson. And in this episode, as we approach the winter solstice, we're going to discuss a hot topic that we hope you guys will find interesting. We're also going to be working with a project manager in Coach's Corner to see if we can't help her out of her project hell. Now, you guys know I ask this every time, right? We do encourage you guys to join us in the conversation. Use the chat to share your thoughts and ideas as we go through the show. And then if you have any questions specifically for Kelly or I, please put those in Q&A. All right, Kelly, where do we start?
With our hot topic, Paul.
Good. I like
As
that.
we approach winter solstice, what else would we want to talk about except status report dilemma?
Yeah.
Right? That's what you were thinking about, I'm sure. Anyway, so I think for a lot of project managers, status reports are the bane of our existence. I know at least they are for me, the headache of my week. In fact, I've got 3 of them due today for an engagement I'm on. 3. And maybe you get to Friday and you think, oh my God, I haven't done my status report. So anyways, I think status reports are a burden that we have to bear as project managers. And I think that we complain about it regularly because we're convinced that our stakeholders rarely, if they ever do, read these status reports. So we ask, why should I do this? Why does this even matter? And I used to believe this line of thinking. That was my story. I used to think no one reads my status reports, let alone click on the email and open and see what's in there. So why should I even bother doing this? Now, I didn't have time for status report nonsense. And then I realized, okay, it's not just about my stakeholders, whether or not they read it. Sure, you need to know your audience and what they care about. And what I came to realize, it was really about the act of me creating the status report, that this exercise of creating the project status, it was key to help keep me on track as the PM and to hold myself accountable for the work that I was doing and was responsible for and be public about it. And I realized that the very act of capturing milestones and the state of the scope, schedule, budget, and risks and whatnot, that was an invaluable tool that enabled me to lead projects better because I was being kept honest about everything I was doing. And so, what do I mean by this? I just want to I have an analogy, Paul, to get ready for this. So I was thinking about Van Gogh's beautiful Starry Night painting. And to understand that entire vision of what's happening in the painting, you kind of need to stand back and take in the whole thing. Because if you only had one piece of the Starry Night painting in view, you wouldn't understand what the whole painting was about. And so often as PMs, we're running from meeting to meeting, project issue, project fires. We lose sight of that whole project view and we get myopic, focused on little pieces, and we lose sight. So those are my initial thoughts, but I'm curious about what your take is on that status report dilemma, especially what do you take into consideration when you're thinking about your audience and what the heck you might even include in a status report?
Sure. And I feel you when you say, put these out and does anybody read them, right?
Right.
Ever put in any Easter eggs into your status report?
I've thought about it, but I've never done it. Have you?
I have a couple of times, put in things that are just kind of oddball, weird things to see if anybody reacts, anybody gives information. Probably not the smartest thing to do, but if you're secure in your role, you can go ahead. But for me, status reports, I hate them and I love them at the same time, right? So I Googled status report. Let's see what came back, right? To just see what the hell is out there. And what came back was pretty ugly, right? Best status report templates, 9 status report examples you can't live without, the ultimate guide, 8 easy steps. Jesus, you'd think that everybody's got this figured out. And I mean, they weren't bad, so don't get me wrong, but they were all very basic. right? Very basic. And I want to hopefully add a little color that goes beyond the clickbait email farm information that you can get on Google. So when I sit down and I start thinking about writing status reports, and I usually I like to think about this at the beginning of the project, right? Because this should set the tone for the whole project. It's a cadence, it's ongoing. So who is it for? Who is my audience really? Because I don't need to write a status report to other project managers. I need to write it to top executives if they're my sponsors and stakeholders, or the clinical community if I'm doing a healthcare project and those are my key stakeholders. So I really need to sit down and think about who I'm writing to. And then what do they need to know, right? They don't need to know all the stuff I did that makes me look good, or they don't need to know all the little minutia. They need to know what is it that is showing them progress to what they want, and ultimately the deliverables thereafter, or things like that. So as you sit and kind of contemplate on what to put in there, think about it really hard, from who are you writing to and what is it they need to know to either see that it's going along good, you're raising a red flag, or it's in the ditch and come help.
Well, and sometimes we have to send status reports out, one status report out to customers and internal stakeholders. Right. So then, to your point, wordsmithing is something you really need to be intentional about.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And in fact, I like to kind of have people look at it that, words take, our minds are built around images. We can process images 6,000 times faster than words. So that's the other things. How can you take the information you're trying to convey and give it to them in a graphical standard? Burn down charts are a good example, right? That makes sense. I can see the trajectory we're on. I can see if we're, drifting off of our line, we're drifting ahead of it. Those types of things, bubble charts that show, how big is this? How small are these other things? They add perspective, and they let your audience quickly understand what it is the message you're trying to sell or send. So I would also encourage you to think about getting out of the text-based status reporting and look at it from graphical concepts and see if you can convey it that way. Because it does force me, at least, to really sit down and think hard about how to convey the information in as little as possible.
Yeah.
And then, if you can automate everything, more power to you. Think about that from the beginning.
Ultimate goal. Right. So just takeaway here, I think, on Hot Topic is look at your status reports as an opportunity to take the big picture of your project and identify meaningful ways to share that picture with your stakeholders, who are your customers.
That's right.
All right. Let's move on to Coach's Corner. We could talk about status reports for a while, which is weird. And I never thought I would really say that. Shouldn't. No, right?
Anna, we have Anna joining us today. We got Anna coming into our...
Yeah, sorry, we're having some technical difficulties as I'm seeing 3 Annas, so I'm not exactly sure which one to promote to panelists. Let's see if I can...
Let's promote all 3. Will the real Anna please stand up?
Okay. We'll keep trying until I find the actual one. Let's see.
There we go.
Perfect.
Hello.
Hi, Anna.
Anna,
you picked the right one.
Look at that. Look at that. Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to be here.
Help us kind of understand the situation you're in and give us a little background, if you don't mind.
So I think this is a situation that probably many can relate to, and it probably can spread between project management and way beyond. I tend to have issues with promoting a really healthy work-life balance when it comes to managing projects that have deadlines right after, say, a holiday break, which is what we're coming right up on, and letting employees have their time to be with family and friends and just get a break from working, where we're also saying, hey, our company is really important and we want to make our clients really happy and we want to make sure we meet client deadlines. So how do we promote both at the same time?
And what sort of things have you run into or tried in the past?
The biggest thing I run into is maybe a client doesn't realize what they need until, I don't know, a Friday at 5 p.m. and they say they need it by Monday morning at 9 a.m. And you're like, ooh, okay, so everyone's working over the weekend to get your project done. And I run into a disappointed employees, but we have willing employees, and so they all are awesomely dedicated to their job, so they'll come in, but it's not a fun thing to have to tell people that they need to put in extra hours because a client maybe didn't have it totally together and realized they needed something last minute.
So how would you know that you've kind of knocked it out of the park with this?
In terms of actually balancing the work life. I don't know if there's a way to know because people don't always wear their emotions on their sleeves. So
it might look different for different people too, right?
Exactly. So it's a little difficult. I think when you can give like set, days off and be stern about those days, that's helpful, but you never know what's going to happen when you're doing this type of work. So.
And share with us the industry that you're in.
Yeah.
I work in entertainment. So I work in film, TV, music, kind of, all the points.
So nothing stressful there.
No. So calm all the time.
No egos to manage.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah. Well, Kelly, what sort of suggestions do you have for Anna?
Oh, I think I can probably speak for you too, Paul. I identify with this completely as a project manager and just as an empathetic person, right? That you would like to create a nice environment for your team members, and yet the work dictates otherwise. So you want to do right by your team members, make sure they're taken care of, and help create that cool, kind organization that you envision. And then you've got the unavoidable situation where you've got the last minute customer stuff happening, and all this teamwork that has to go on at last minute's notice for like holidays. I'm sure that's happening right now, like you said. So
absolutely.
How do you balance the mindset and culture of the organization while respecting your team as human beings with lives outside of the organization and work? So, it's not a slam dunk answer, I don't think, but being open, like you're doing, be open to experimenting with different ideas on how you can effectuate balance, because maybe some of these ideas they sound good and then you implement them and that doesn't do anything. So I think one thing that I would do, backing way up and going to the hiring process, is when you're in the interview process before you even hired people, is make sure you share with them, here's how this organization ethos looks. We work hard. Don't sugarcoat it. I'll let them know, how things roll, what's expected. And I imagine folks who are in the entertainment industry might already be aware of this. But sometimes, people go in, they think it's going to be one thing, but you can minimize those surprises about what it's really like and prevent this isn't what I signed up for. I'm out, and I don't know if that happens much. But I think if you sugarcoat, you're avoiding the topic and you're just greasing the skids for turnover. And I just interviewed somebody a few months ago, and I let them know straight up, this company is a difficult place. But I also balanced it out with the fact that people in this company are great people to work with. And to them, that was more important than the fact that, we're on all the time. And they ended up joining the company. So there's that. And then another thing I'm thinking of is having a team norms agreement. And this might seem like a weird thing, a strange idea, but I think that it goes a long way toward creating work-life balance. It's part of setting up your own team ethos, that your team environment and your subculture in your team, right? So together you establish, how are you going to work together? You're going to weave in the norms that balance the team. And that can only be done with input from them and not just you kind of in a vacuum thinking what they might like to have, right? So things like we support one another by noticing when someone's having a hard day and we ask how we can help. We commit to making sure no team member is burdened with all the extra jobs, all the deliverables that are, outside normal hours. We find ways to share the load. You would think that that's just assumed, but it makes such a difference to have this agreement, this living document where everyone's inputting what's meaningful to them and you're agreeing on a set of norms and expectations together. It really cuts the disappointment down. And then when you've got new people joining your team, you can pull that out and review it because, like I said, it's a living document. That's just a couple ideas.
That's a great idea. I love that one.
So entertainment. What popped into my head was The Devil Wears Prada, right?
We're not that bad.
Because
Close.
Emily turns and tells her, right, that this is the job that a million girls would kill for. So there's always somebody behind waiting to take over if somebody goes, I can't work the weekend.
Oh yeah.
So it's a tough business, right? But things are shifting as well, right? The Great Resignation and resources are starting to get pretty scarce. So things might be shifting. So the things I'm going to suggest may take a while, right? They're not, overnight fixes.
Darn.
One of the things that I've found over my career is when I start laying out projects, I back 6-hour days instead of 8-hour days, right? Because I need to make sure that I'm giving time to the team for their administrative work, for their other activities that are not necessarily specific to the project. Kind of pushes things out, but then I've got more wiggle room to deal with, to kind of absorb some of those problems. So that's one way we started doing it, was just, we never used 8-hour days to schedule stuff. The other thing we started doing was really gathering our actuals, right? So at the end, we could go back to the sales team and go, yeah, you sold it for this many hours. We got it done in that many days, but it really meant that, we doubled up on the hours and everybody put in crazy, 16-hour days for 6 weeks. And we started showing them. So the next time we would tell them, no, we're not kidding. It is a 16-week project. Remember these last 3. And we could start to give them seriously what it was going to take and had some data. And then the other thing we did is you can't say no, right? You cannot say no to your customer. They're in charge. I mean, it's facts of life. But you can start to say, yes, we absolutely can get the team in here this weekend to do that. It is going to be a little extra, right? Because we're going to have to make this up to the team. So we're looking at X in order to get everybody, Grammy tickets so they can come enjoy the show that they just produced or whatever it is, right?
Right.
And we did find that a lot of customers either like that or they all of a sudden go, oh, an extra $50K. Yeah, you guys can take the next week to do it. We're okay. The deadline isn't that bad. Because once you put a price on it, then everybody goes, oh, that's what it costs. And they start to have a different conversation rather than, I need it tomorrow. My hair's on fire.
Right.
That's
so
funny.
Those are some ideas that have helped me in the past kind of level up some customers. And we've had really bad ones and we've had some really great ones over the years.
Well, I think the fact that you are interested in this and you're paying attention to it, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? That's where it starts, is with you.
Yeah.
And even in a difficult industry and maybe, a different, difficult culture where balance is really hard to attain, I believe with a little ingenuity and some elbow grease, you can create that microcosm subculture where you've got that sense of balance because you've embedded some things and you've been thoughtful about scheduling the work and things like that. I mean, you can make a difference. I don't think it's a lost cause at all.
No, definitely not. But it's a complicated cause.
Yeah.
Any of this you think gonna help?
Yeah, absolutely. I really do. I love the idea of putting, a physical document together that we can pull out and be like, hey, let's remember this thing that we all agreed to do. Everyone everyone's seen the document. Let's do it. I think that's, yeah, I love
I've got a
that.
template I'll send to you
That
that
would be
you can
great.
use
Yeah.
and start with and make it
I
your
love
own.
that. Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, this has been great. We certainly enjoyed it. Thank you so
I'm
much,
glad.
Anna. We
Yeah,
do
thanks for
hope you'll
having me.
we do hope you'll drop us a note in a 3-4 weeks, kind of let us know if anything's changing for the better. And
I will.
Definitely.
I'll give it, a month and a half because we're supposed to have a break,
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
I need it in 3 weeks.
Oh, Paul and I love it when we hear from our former My Project Hell Coaches Corner folks about how things are going. It's really
I
fun
will
to look back
definitely
and
keep you posted.
yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Outstanding.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right. And as you would expect, it is time to wrap up this episode of My Project Hell. I know Kelly and I enjoyed the show. We hope you guys did too. You can always catch the replays over on YouTube under My Project Hell. We've got them all stacked up there. And you can also check out our website and get more information for hitting Kelly and I up for questions or separate consultations for you if you like.
And we just want to acknowledge we wouldn't be here without you. So quick shout out to our loyal listeners and faithful audience. And Paul and I want to invite you to join us for our last episode of 2021 on December 30th, where you'll be enthralled with the Paul and Kelly's top 10 ways you can advance your game in 2022. Quick reminder, fill out the survey here at the end of the session or access it in the follow-up post-show email. And we will see you next time here on My Project Hell. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.